Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our second installment of our life insurance series. Today we have Miss Ann Davis, and she's going to be talking about the Vive Term Life platform. So, without further ado, Miss Ann, here, take it away.
Like you said, my name is Ann Davis. I'm the IFS Business Process Analyst over here at Infor Solutions, which is a sister company to True Choice Financial. What I'll be doing is I'll be walking you through what's called a Vive Term Life submission platform through our True Choice Financial website. A little bit about me. I have been with Infor Solutions for almost 7 years. And I focus mainly on efficiency. I like to joke around because I have 1-year-old twins and say I'm so dedicated to efficiency that I had 2 children with 1 maternity leave. So so with that, I'll go ahead and try to see if I can get my screen shared here. Awesome. So this is the home dashboard. In order to get to the platform which we'll be discussing, you'll want to click the tools button at the top and then go down and click Life Tools, Vive Term Life. And this is kind of like the Vive home area for True Choice Financial. Here you'll see a couple of blurbs regarding accelerated underwriting, what is called a Vive score, which is the Vive platform gives you a score as far as the likelihood that a client would make accelerated underwriting, and it by carrier. So if it's more likely that the client would go through Prudential accelerated underwriting versus AIG, it'll notify you of that. And we'll go over that a little bit when we get further in here. Further down, we have our carriers. This is the 7 carriers which are on Vive currently, which is AIG, Banner, as well as William Penn for New York, Cincinnati, Lincoln, Pacific Life, Protective, and Prudential. Here you'll see the Access Your Vive account, which is what we're going to be clicking on in a second. But further down, there are a couple job aids, including how the Vive process works, order entry process, which is something that I sent over earlier and can share with you guys. Share a quote, which is if you go in and you create a quote, you're able to send it to the client prior to doing the actual application process. And then the service level agreements, just letting you know kind of the timelines of how everything looks when or how we prefer it to look with Vive and accelerated underwriting. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up really quick just so you can kind of see here. See if I can zoom this in a little bit for you. There. So you can see it has the phone icon here. So you're able to access that True Choice Financial through your phone as well. And what it is you have your order process, which comes in same day, goes straight to the carrier. The carrier then does an e-interview link that's sent to the client. Some carriers do a phone interview, but most of them do the e-interview link. The client completes that. It then goes through an algorithm or initial review. A lot of times it'll go straight to decision. I've seen some even same day. It goes from app submission to placement, which is, all the better for you guys because you need to be out there doing what you do best, which is sales, and it shouldn't have to be bogged down with the administrative side of things. So yeah, like I said, it goes through initial review process. In the event that something does flag, say a client has a history with diabetes or high blood pressure, or has some financial stuff that flags, because life insurance does run motor vehicle records, an MIB, which is for any previous life insurance applications, prescription database report, and then what's called a LexisNexis or a consumer report. So out of all of those reports, if something flags that makes it so that the client is no longer accelerated underwriting eligible, it'll then revert to the traditional underwriting process for that carrier, which in most cases means an exam. Some carriers will try to do records, medical records, like electronic medical records, to avoid an exam. But then, the opposite, some carriers do an exam to try to avoid medical records. So it just depends on what carrier you work with. Either way, we here at Enforce Solutions are here to kind of help push those through, those cases that do not end up going accelerated underwriting, and to help kind of make sure that they stay as efficient and go through as smoothly as possible. After the receipt of those requirements, the carrier will then review and will give an offer. The preferred timeline for that is for 2 business days. Sometimes I've even seen it same business day as receipt of the labs or medical records. And then after the carrier has approved or done the offer, if you have discussed with your client and you don't have any changes, or even if you do have changes and we need to send it to the carrier, then they'll subsequently go ahead and send that to issue. And many of the carriers have a process where it goes direct to the client, so you don't even have to do the traditional create an appointment, sit down, like do the delivery and then bring it back. I don't know how many of you have experience with life insurance, but sometimes, especially if you're in a large state, that can be time consuming. And in today's post-COVID environment, some people are kind of iffy about meeting close to close proximity in person. So this is a good alternative for that. As soon as the client clicks accept and accepts their delivery or their policy, then the policy goes placed in force, and whatever commission structure you have set up, you're paid according to that. And it's as easy as that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead then and go back over here and show you the actual Vive portal. So like I said, you'll go to Vive Tools Materials, access your Vive account, and then click Go To. And this will be your Vive dashboard. So for those who have not registered yet, the first time you go into this portal, you'll click on Start an Order. And for you, it will create a drop down which has your agent information, which is fed in from your True Choice login. And you need to make sure you do your accurate social security number, because contracting is based off of that, and it will tie that to the carrier that way. But it's a one-time registration. As soon as you get that done, then you'll be able to go and do the actual order process, which I'm going to walk you through right now. So you'll then again click Start an Order. And then I like to do Test Frog as my name. Mail, state. So you just put in the basic client's name, date of birth, gender, state, if they're going to be replacing coverage or not, which means if they have life insurance that is currently active and they're wanting to replace that with a new policy. Sometimes clients like to do that because it's a cheaper rate. Sometimes they already have a term policy which is coming up for expiration, so they'd like to kind of get something better that lasts for a longer amount of time. It just depends on the situation. Chris can definitely assist you with further information regarding that. So in this case, we're going to click no. The purpose of coverage, we're going to do personal, but if you wanted to do business, then it would in the second section we're about to get to, it would ask you for a little bit more information regarding the business. Nothing in this application process is super intensive. That's one of the biggest benefits of the Vive platform is you're able to complete fairly shortly this process, and the heavy lifting of the medical and financial detail work is completed in the e-interview or phone interview process. So Next, you're going to go to your term link. Here we're going to do a 20-year term. If you wanted multiple terms, then you can click multiple terms. When we pull up a quote, it'll just show that. But for this walkthrough, we're going to just do one. You go to your rate class, which is how you're applying a client at. Most of the time, depending on the client's health, it'll range from standard to preferred best. As you can see, they do have an option to apply all the way down at table 8, which is generally not the healthiest individual. Obviously, those clients would not qualify for accelerated underwriting, but nonetheless, you are able to utilize this platform to submit those clients. So with this one, we're going to go with preferred. If I didn't know what the rate class was for that client, then you can use this health analyzer, which when you get to the next page, it would ask a couple more health questions that would help determine what rate class would be best for that client. In this event, we're going to do preferred in the interest of saving time for you guys. And it's going to ask if you want some riders. A lot of carriers include an accelerated death benefit rider in their policy, in their term policy. Some don't, but most of them do. There's hardly, if ever, an additional cost for that. The waiver of premium rider is generally an excess cost, and what it basically means is that in the event that you get injured or something happens, you have a cushion of not having to pay premium while you're down. It's a kind of like a secondary, like an insurance thing as far as your premium goes. And then there's a child term rider, which is where, say, me as a mother, I have a term policy. I want to get insurance, life insurance on my children, but I don't want to have to do an entire separate policy. I can add term riders, say $10,000 up to $99,000 term rider for each one of my children onto mine, and it'll just be one single policy and one single premium that comes out. Again, Chris can go into a little bit further detail with you on the sales end of those and how best to position those with your client and their needs. So for this, we're going to click yes, and then we're going to click continue. See, I forgot to put in the coverage amount. That's what's great about this system, is that if anything is missing, it bumps you back over exactly to where it's missing. You don't have to kind of search and be like, I don't know why is this holding up? So for this, we're gonna do 300,000. Again, if you don't know exactly how much the client needs, you can click this calculate your client's needs icon, and it then goes through a little bit of financial information to kind of help figure out what the best suited base amount is, death benefit amount. If I wanted to do multiple faces, up to 3 faces, then I can do that here. Faces is the same thing as coverage amount or death benefit. I'm not sure who all has experience in life insurance. I know terminology can vary. But for this walkthrough, we're going to do 1. And then I'm going to press continue. So it's going to develop quotes for me to choose from. One thing to note while I'm going through this is that you will want to make sure you are contracted with the carrier that you're going to choose to write with prior to submission, just to avoid any delays. There are a lot of just-in-time states. However, just for the benefit of everybody, I definitely recommend going ahead and getting contracting submitted prior to submission. And that's something that Chris can help you with as well. Here you'll see that the several carriers were pulled up. It goes through their accelerated underwriting score. So here you see Cincinnati Life is 84, has a score of 84. If you hover over it, it generally like shows think because I'm on the webinar, it's not allowing it to pop up, but generally it'll show up the accelerated underwriting guidelines for that carrier if you're hovering over it. Yeah, see, as it showed right there. And what went into that score. So Prudential is the best one, being at 94, and it shows product features as well as the AU eligibility and probability. So eligible ages for Prudential, it shows is between 18 and 65, with a face amount of 100,000 up to 65 million, pretty large number. I can tell you that some carriers have even expanded what's called lab free, what I was telling you about, without exams, up to 2.5 million, such as Lincoln Financial. Then we have a couple other carriers. We have AIG here, which talks about, you know, hey, it does really good with speed and process, and the likelihood of speeding process would be good. The conversion opportunities are pretty good, not best, but pretty good. But the product features aren't as great as some of the other carriers, which is why it's in the orange, including the accelerated death benefit rider is only at a 50% of the death benefit. And those are all marketing things that Chris can kind of go into as well. So I'm going to go through all of these and I'm going to decide, okay, which one do I want to go with? If I couldn't tell right off the bat here, if I wanted to send it to the client, I would simply check these boxes here under the compare. And then I would click this compare if I wanted to do, you know, a PDF, or you can click share a quote and it would request an email and you can just email it over to that client. For this one, we're going to go ahead and go on to the submission process. So here I'm going to select whichever carrier I'm going to go with. This one's cheaper. You can see right here is the premium section. It shows you the amount per year as well as the amount per month. Most clients who are doing term policies go by month. But I will say, just like in a lot of different products, if you go pay by the year, it's a little cheaper to do that. I will say that if a client does decide to go monthly, pretty much all carriers require that be by EFT, electronic funds transmission, or a PAC form bank draft. They don't allow for a check to be sent in manually anymore. Just an FYI. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and click the select button, and it'll take me to the remainder of the submission process. It is really short. It already populated my client's name, first and last name. You know, I'm going to put a social security number in. And then the email address. The email address is important because, like I said, several of these carriers send a link to the client as soon as you do submission, where the client will click and then they'll go through and they'll answer the medical, health, and financial questions, like I mentioned before, that you're not having to go through by doing this short submission process. So I'll go ahead and do my email. To a phone number in the event that the carrier is not able to obtain the e-interview, say the client just isn't responsive. Some carriers will then attempt to reach out via phone to complete that. Not all carriers, but Prudential is a carrier that does do that. Do the address. Chris, what's your zip up there? I guess it doesn't matter. I'll just try this one. There we go. For two-factor authentication. So this is going to be the mobile phone number that the client's going to want to use for when they go in to do their e-interview. Once they complete everything, it'll create a generated full application. They'll need to do an electronic signature process at that time. And if they do end up doing that, then a confirmation, like a two-factor authentication number, will be sent to their phone. So you're going to want to make sure that they actually do put a cell phone in here. I've had sometimes where like they do a business line or a home phone line, and that doesn't work generally. So they put the cell phone number in. And then you click which way that the client would like the two-factor authentication, via SMS or an actual phone call. You have to answer a citizenship question. Will you be submitting an exam from a previous life insurance application? So generally, if you know the client is not healthy and won't qualify for accelerated underwriting, and you have submitted something for this client with another carrier, then you would select yes. However, in most cases, it's not beneficial to submit an exam that's been previously done for that client if you are not sure or are pretty certain that they're going to qualify for accelerated underwriting. The reason being that, it's a classic, the less information you have, the less less likelihood that you're going to have something that gets flagged. So say, it's a perfectly healthy client that from all accounts looking at, 30 years old, active, no like alarming health records, no prescriptions, something like that. But then they go to do an exam and cholesterol, BP all show up high. That's not going to bode well as well for that client. They might end up getting preferred versus a preferred best, which is a little bit more expensive. So generally, if you can avoid it, which we suggest, you want to click no. If you do end up having to use an exam or submitting an exam, it's important to go by these guidelines where it says if the client's over the age of 70, the exam will have had to have been completed in the last 6 months. If they're under the age of 70 or under, then it'd be the last 12 months. Purpose of insurance, like we answered on the first question, it'd be personal, but if we did want it to be business, then it would download a couple different reasons for that purpose, such as a buy-sell agreement, a loan indemnification, key person insurance. Here we're going to do personal. And when you click personal, then it goes through a whole line of other types of reasons why you would want to do personal. Debt mortgage protection is a very common one. Retirement income planning, not necessarily for term. Final expenses, asset repositioning isn't necessarily a big one for term either, but those are all things that Chris can go through with you. So we're gonna do debt mortgage protection. What is the source of the premium? Here we're gonna do earned income. If you had a situation where it was another life insurance policy or a certificate of deposit, there can be tax ramifications with depending on what kind of funding you're planning on using. So just want to be cognizant of that, and that's something again that Chris can go through with you for. And then it asks what's the source of future incomes, because this is the initial premium and then future premiums, and we're just going to continue to do earned income. Did you see the proposed insured during the sales process? Yes, this is one of those things that's part of fiduciary responsibility and making sure that you're doing what you're contracted with the carrier as far as what their guidelines stipulate. Is the proposed insured an active duty service member? I'm going to click no. If you were to click yes and ask some other questions regarding, if they're deploying, because all of that is a risk factor. An important thing to look at when you're looking at life insurance is how would a carrier look at this in regards to life expectancy? It's all about financial risk and all about how likely are we to have to pay this out for this client. So sometimes I had an agent who got mad because we had a client who was highly rated for heli skiing. And he's like, I don't understand. Like, if you ski, you jump out of it's normal to get the best snow to jump out of a helicopter. I was like, I understand that. However, you have to think about it, Chris can tell you we've seen some interesting things, but you just definitely always want to be cognizant of that when you're underwriting or applying for life insurance coverage for a client. It's a little bit different than a lot of other products. Is the policy owner or the person for whom the policy was sold an active duty member? No. So in this case, a policy owner isn't always the proposed insured who's the client. Sometimes the husband would be the owner. Sometimes a business would be the owner. It just depends on personal preference. Is the proposed insured a prior client? We're just going to say no here. That's not really a huge question. Knowledge of the proposed insured. It'll ask you, is it yourself? Is it relative? It all goes back to that fiduciary responsibility. Here I'm going to say that I know well, and then it's going to say, well, how many years do you know this person? I'll say 3 and home. Is the proposed insured or proposed insured owner considering a transfer or sale of settlement? Blah, blah, blah. It's basically saying to make sure that they know where directly their funds are coming from, and to kind of alert if it's planning on coming from a owner of a trust, or if it's something that can kind of seem a little bit fishy, to let them know. And in this case, we're going to say no. Has the client been issued a Prudential Pruco policy within the past 3 months? In this case, we're going to say no. If the client does say yes, then that can flag for the carrier to go ahead and look at those that approval rating and requirements that were used for that prior application, and sometimes just go ahead and approve based on that basis. So you wouldn't have to go through the entire policy. So it already loaded the quote information in that we decided to choose. Here I'm going to go to monthly, and if you do monthly, then it'll automatically, when the client goes through their e-interview, assign a EFT inside it so that you can complete bank information. Just click semi-annual here. You can click between and it'll show you the different premiums. Again, before, when we first entered this quote, it asked if we were going to be having a replacement, and in this case we are not, so it says no, they're not going to be replacing any existing coverage. Owner information, like I said, it can sometimes not be the proposed insured, but in this case we are going to have the owner be the proposed insured. Beneficiary information, there's only necessary that you do one designation. If you wanted to, you can add contingent beneficiary, you can add another beneficiary that is the equal primary. It just depends on your preference. And this again is not set in stone. So say the client gets on the e-interview and decides, no, I want to change this, or I actually wanted to add this. That's always apt to be able to be changed up until placement of the policy, and even after placement of the policy, they can always do a beneficiary change form. So don't hold yourself to the fire saying, I don't know if this is the right thing. Because it's all something that we're here to help you with. So we're going to do Lady Frog as the beneficiary. And then it has a whole slew of relations here. We're going to click wife. SSN is not required. It is required once you finally get to the other end when you're going for placement. So if you know it or you can find it out, I'd go ahead and put it there, even though it's not going to hold up the application. Do 100% for this. Primary, date of birth. Ooh, that'd be young. All right, click continue. So here you get a review. So it goes through all of the client's information that you entered. If you see anything that's wrong, you can edit it. And then after that, you click continue. And then it has the submit order process section. Here you're going to enter your agent information. So if it's going to be a split commission, then you'd click yes, say there's like multiple agents on that one application. This doesn't apply towards hierarchy contracting. So that's already taken care of on the back end, but yeah, so do you intend to deliver face-to-face? Oftentimes it's no because of e-delivery, but you can click yes. It doesn't, again, that's something that can change as well. And then it goes through the agreements of submission. You know, the solicitation or sale did not take place on a military base. Just basically kind of making sure that your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So you're going to go through and then you would click I agree to the terms stated above, and then you'd submit/agree. In this case, we're not going to submit because I don't want Prudential to have a test frog application. But after submission, you'll get an immediate email stating, you know, thank you for your submission, and it'll have a review of all the information you submitted. You'll be able to click on my cases, and then you'll be able to see under submitted orders, you'll see that case, and then also under case status, you'll be able to see like the case status in this general area. Now, one good thing to have in the tools that I sent out, and then you can also access here, is this client data form. This is a 2-page form that you can take with you when you're meeting with clients, or you can give to someone who will help be filling it out for you. That has all the information that we just went over that you need. 2 pages. That's it. It's not this 46-page application, or, you know, these signatures here. You don't have to wait on an e-signature to come back and did I submit it? It's just 2 pages. So if you wanted to, you can take this to a meetup where you have several potential clients. You can give them out. They give you their information. You go back, you're like, hand it to your admin, like, hey, fill this out, enter this for me, and then it submits the application for you. It's definitely a leg up and advantage compared to a lot of the other e-application systems, because they are several pages through versus this 2-pager. So with that, I'm just going to really quick go through just 2 more things, and then I'll pass it on for questions. First thing I wanted to show you is this accelerated underwriting. If you click on that, it'll show you exactly what accelerated underwriting means. And then it'll also go through the carriers and their requirements. And then it will also allow you, if you click display print version, it'll allow you to print that so that you can take that with you and kind of have that as a one-on-one to give, so that you're giving the right information to the client and setting the right expectations. Another good thing to look at is the Vive score, and that's what we went over when the quote was run. And it kind of breaks down a little bit more depth exactly what a Vive score is. And if you forget how to do that quoting process, there is a get a full demo today. And then I also sent a walkthrough PDF that has that as well, which I believe Bernard, I'm sure you'll distribute. So with that, I will turn it over for questions.
All right, folks, do we have any questions for Ann on the Vive Term Life platform? All right, well, seeing none, well, Ann, can this all be done over the phone without having to?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, there's no in-person signature process that has to be done there. So if you're collecting that data, you just be in the platform, you enter the data information, and then as soon as it's sent, it's the same process as you would if you went and you collected that information on that form and then came back and entered it. That's a good thing about e-application, let alone this drop ticket process.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, I can say this. We actually had one agent do the Vive. The process went pretty fast. It's just the underwriting part, which us as agents, we don't have any control over. That's between the client and the pyramid facility doing what they do. But the process leading up to that went very fast. I think the pyramid maybe took 2 weeks, but after that, the results came in and that was pretty fast as well. So the Vive is a very good term life platform. And I would assume, especially if it is accelerated underwriting, it probably would be a week for a case to be submitted.
Sometimes like some same day, sometimes 2 days. It can be very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with like Banner Life is one where immediately after they complete their e-interview, they get notified if an approval is given or not, and it's sent straight over to the client, and they can accept it right then, and then for like literally the same day you submit it, it can be placed in force. Obviously, you know, if this is a healthy client or not, but on the whole, this definitely aids in shortening that process. I've done a lot of data analysis for our company with the application cycle times, and for agents who hadn't traditionally submitted life insurance. And I can tell you this has significantly shortened cycle times and has allowed for a really easy jump start for agents who hadn't done life insurance prior. And not only that, it builds up business in a very short time span, because you're not having to deal with back and forth a lot of times.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, what I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to reach out to everyone, and you're going to get 2 things. And has 3 PDFs. You'll receive those PDFs, and I'm going to give you our contracting link to get contracted with a few of those carriers, and I'll suggest which carriers to get contracted with. But no, this is a great platform. I'm going to be using it myself. So yeah, folks, I really appreciate and Chris for setting that up. Folks, if you don't have any other questions, let's enjoy the rest of our Thursday.
Oh. Awesome. Yeah. And Bernard, if you have any questions, or if anybody does end up having questions, my information is in the email that I sent over to Chris. I'm sure he'll distribute that over to you. So I'm always available for that.
All right. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
Hey, well, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Right. You too. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.